can't all be like that.
The biggest, the boldest, the business.
Dum, 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 dum. This whole show is dumb. What you're about to hear is dumb. Totally and completely dumb. The people responsible for this criminally insane broadcast are no geniuses either. In fact, before I'd listen to this show, I'd rather hit myself over the head with a large hammer.
Well, he has got his wish.
Adrian.
But those cheers turn to tears as you realise it's the last show ever. But we do have all the big names in, and I do mean big.
Together, we will see this through to the very end. I love you.
Try and get this show right. I'll give you the cassette recorders go round from here. If you're jumping, we're pumping.
Keep the noise down, dear boy. I have a splitting headache.
Yes. Hello, if you're just stirring from your slumbers after last night and half of this morning. I tell you what, we got just a jingle for you.
Good morning, good morning. We hope you're feeling swell. Good morning, good morning. You look like hell.
Yes, a lot of hooch has been consumed by our lot by the looks of things.
I hate it when you wake up in the morning and you've been that drunk you've slept in the one position all night. And you wake up and a whole other side is... You think, oh my God, I had a stroke. I think, why can't I get out the bed? Because you're inside the duvet cover, that's why. You're like this giant Lord of Ashley amoeba writhing all over.
Why do we do it? Why do we poison ourselves every year?
The body is a sensitive instrument. It is a highly sophisticated piece of natural engineering. It deserves respect. I mean, you wouldn't pour 7 pints of lager in your stereo, would you? You wouldn't buy a camera that spent every New Year's Eve unconscious on the toilet floor. But the old body bollock's not going to live forever, am I? Let's have another round. Come on, get him in. There we go. Pour it down. Aren't I hard? Of course I can drive. Wallop, was that an old lady? Who cares?
Well, you adopted your usual New Year's Eve stance, didn't you?
I'm invariably kneeling on the floor. With my head down the toilet, hanging on. Vomiting makes you bilingual.
Bilingual?
You can speak Swahili. Buzinga mumbayaga bula. Buzinga mananga wangaba.
What are you drinking, anyway?
Oh, Bacardi and Tizer. That is definitely the worst pint I ever had.
Well, I was drinking card table cocktails last night.
Card table cocktail?
Yeah, 3 of those and your legs fold up. 10 minutes past 1. A very happy New Year to you. If you're just woken up. I must say, we caught Simon Bates out well and truly just before Christmas. We ran a coach up to his panto in High Wycombe with about 60 people from 1FM and surprised him. Oh, boy, did we surprise him. The local paper gave him a good review, actually. It says, ex-Radio 1 DJ Simon Bates has a wonderfully rich voice, but he is too nice a guy to play Wicked Abanaza.
Oh, no, he isn't.
Well, exactly. We know him better than you do.
Hello, love.
You know, Kate, it's a shame we weren't on last week because we were going to do, actually, the BBC Nativity play.
Well, why didn't you?
Well, we couldn't find a virgin or 3 wise men. And Robert Lemonson, I don't know what category he goes in there, but here's one of his favourite gags of the year.
Thank you very much. Right, Trevor's serving in the food hall, and the customer asked for half a cabbage. He said, I'm sorry, we don't do half a cabbage. He said, look, I've been coming here 20 years, I want a half a cabbage. He said, you'll have a whole one, sir? He said, no, half. So he walked round back to the manager and said, look, some prat out there wants half a cabbage. He didn't know that the customer had followed him round. So he said, oh, and this gentleman wants the other half. So he got away with it. Anyway, the manager called him in that night. He said, look, I was very impressed with the way you handled a bit of diplomacy there. We have a new branch in Argentina, and we'd like to offer you the manager's post. He said, Argentina? That's full of footballers and prostitutes, isn't it? He said, be careful, my wife comes from Argentina. He said, what position does she play?
I knew we should have had him on tape. Now, what's in those old papers today? Oh, yes, Gloucestershire Social Services are going to give young offenders the short, sharp shock treatment. They're sending them to Butlins. As the producers have finally cast someone to play the part of Robert Maxwell in the forthcoming musical and say that although he's the wrong age, height, is slim and doesn't look anything like him, he's got the most important ability. He can't swim. It's Björk on 1FM in 1994. Happy New Year. I'm glad 93's gone, aren't you? You know, watching all those news reviews of it didn't cheer me up any. But, you know, it's like Martin Lewis says, they only concentrate on the bad bits, don't they?
You watch all this disaster on television, and the more you watch it, the less you really care. That's unfortunately how it is. You watch it on the telly, you go, oh, that's really bad, that's terrible. I'm going to watch it again at 9 o'clock, though, that's good. Oh, wow, I'm going to video that one, yeah. And the more you watch it, there's always an amateur video. Whenever there's a disaster, there's always an amateur video of it. And who is this amateur, for Christ's sake? How does he know where to go next? The guy must be like the Grim Reaper with a Super 8 or something.
I tell you where there wouldn't have been a video. Back in the days of Noah and the Great Flood.
Probably, of course, the greatest natural disaster in the entire history of the planet, the Great Flood. The entire planet flooded for 40 days and 40 nights, and I better know what happened the very next day. Everyone suddenly knew loads of jokes about it. Because whenever you get a big disaster, the very next day, everyone knows those jokes about it. And it's the same joke up and down the country. Every school playground, every pub, every office, everyone knows who makes these jokes up and how do they get round so quickly.
Yeah, but there's nothing new about it, is there?
Jokes have always followed big disasters. I know that archaeologists were digging in some Roman remains, and they found some graffiti on a wall in Latin that how many Pompeii residents can you get in the back of a chariot? All of them, if you've got a shovel.
So that's where it comes from. Mind you, if you're in a disaster today, you're straight on the telly, aren't you?
Immediately, a mini-series is made about your story.
As soon as you're bundled into the ambulance, you're on.
Those walkie-talkies are connected to NBC. There's no more wheelchairs left in Hollywood. They used them all up in the mini-series. They don't even bother with actresses anymore. They use the real victims. So the minute you're told your results are positive, you go straight to makeup.
Dave Price, who was my first ever producer at Radio 1. And he's watching me today. Not much older, but a little wiser. And that was the first record we played on our very first show in 1978. You should have taken it back to the Gram Library by now, shouldn't we really, Dad? Oh, they're in as well, Amp. What's the fine on that? 5 fig... Oh, a bit cheaper to keep me on, then, Well, I know if you're just conscious after the wild excesses of last night. Let me tell you, you're in good company. Because it looks as if they're pretty wild in Downing Street.
John?
Yes, Norma?
Are you still asleep?
No, I always look like this. How are you?
John, my head, it's awful.
Well, you can't help being plain, dear.
No, I mean after the New Year's Eve party. Oh, I never should have drunk so much. And I don't know what you've been drinking, but you didn't half talk a lot of rubbish last night.
I wasn't drinking anything, dear.
Weren't you? Then why is there sickle down the front of your jumper?
That isn't sick, it's the design. I think I look very smart.
Do you? Why are you wearing those knickers over your head?
Am I? Goodness. I wonder what the Queen would say if she saw me now.
I'd say, give one's knickers back, you great twit.
Your Majesty, what are you doing in our bed?
She's looking for me.
Ah, there you are, Charles.
Morning, Nita.
Morning. Have you been behaving yourself?
Of course I have. Morning, Camilla. Morning, PM. Norma.
I'm sorry, everyone. I think I'm going to...
Oh, dear. Oh, I bet he drinks Carling Black Label. Does anyone have anything for a hangover?
Yes, I do. Leave it to Ollie.
What is it, Mr. Reed?
2 pints of fizzy whiskey, Mom.
I'll tell you one thing, Your Majesty. This year is going to be completely different from 1993.
Is it?
I'm calling it 1994.
Is that it, John?
No, Norma. I've thought of something to help you, me, Prince Charles and Princess Di We're all going to have a much quieter 1994. How? We'll all change our names to Michael Jackson.
Together, we will see this through to the very end. I love you. Goodbye.
Do you want to hear an outtake from that last sketch? Well, it is the last show. That was written, let me tell you, by a guy called Stuart Silver from Spitting Image. And he's a great radio man, too. He gives you about 10 different voices to do. And sometimes it's difficult for me to remember which one I'm supposed to be doing.
Ah, there you are, Charles.
Morning, Nita.
Morning. Have you been behaving yourself?
Of course I have. Morning, Camilla. Morning, PM. Norma.
Sorry, everyone. I think I'm zipping.
Oh, love is. Hello, it's Jo now, back from her tour of the Oxford Street sales. Do you get anything interesting?
I don't actually buy anything. I just go around hitting people because I think it serves them right, really. I do.
You know what her favourite store is? Boots. Hey, now you're in here. What was your highlight of '93?
This woman, Rebecca Stevens, who went to the top of Everest, first British woman to get there. Now, the first team with British men in it went up in 1953. That's 40 years ago. What's she been doing, looking lazy cow? Looking at the shops on the way up, no doubt. Not harm, is it?
And, of course, you were the one who liked those Benetton ads.
They were fantastic. What they did was they took photos of famous people and they changed their race so that, for example, the Pope became Chinese, Michael Jackson became white, no change there then, and the Queen became a West Indian. Brilliant. And apparently they wanted to do it with the whole royal family, but Fergie looked too much like Barry White with a ginger wig on, so, oh, that's a bit cruel.